Greetings, friends, and welcome to Enigma Night Gaming. My name is Liara, and I will be your guide in today's adventure. Today, we are playing the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and in our last episode, we started a new case where we found out that Professor Hairbrain was responsible for the death of some man of questionable associations, but in Enia case, he has been accused of murder, and now we're going to have to defend him in court. So, without further ado, let's hop into the game. Alright, it is time to go to the scene of the crime now. Let's check it out. 22nd of October, the Great Exhibition Grounds. Foot of the Crystal Tower. Okay, so we've got to examine the crime scene. Ugh, the showgrounds are a little too big for my liking. We've been walking around in dense crowds for 2 hours now, and I felt myself swooning 3 times. There are a lot of people, aren't there? I've been almost trodden on 3 times too. Be careful, won't you, Iris? Don't let go of my hand. We finally made it through the throngs, though, by the look of it. Here we are, underneath the public experimentation stage where the explosion happened yesterday. Oh boy. Oh my. It's like broken through the glass. Everyone's like exclaiming about it. What's that? I can hear voices from up on stage. It sounds like an argument. Listen. Right, I've had it with you this time. I'm warning you. I'll arrest you in a minute. Oh yeah? Go on then, Inspector. Give it a shot. You ain't got no evidence and you know it. Oh boy. I know those 2 voices. You've got a cheeky little mouth on you, young lady. But a night in the cells will teach you some manners. Just try it. I dare ya. If y'all want that bag of chips rammed down your throat. It's our 2 good friends. Yoo-hoo! Gregsy! What are you doing up there? Gregson. He's just like, no words. It's you here. Here you are, your ladyship. How are you, your ladyship? I do hope you're well, your ladyship. Does that make her 3 times a lady? I'm not well at all. It's far too busy everywhere. I wanted to ride in a balloon, but there was a 3-hour queue. Unbelievable. I'll go and have a word for you at once, your ladyship. You'll be flying high as a kite in no time once I pull some strings for you. Oh man, Tobias Gregson, an inspector at Scotland Yard. Until recently, he was suspended from duty, but it would appear he's back in action now. He's actually quite well known, appearing as he does in The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, which, you know, Iris writes. And for that reason, he can't say a word wrong to the story's author, Iris. But there are limits, surely. Or there should be. Watch it, sunshine. Sorry? What gives then? Don't tell me you're on this case. Yes, I'm acting for the defense. Of course. So we're here to investigate. Dear me, that's the situation, is it? Is it really that troubling? Just a measly 5, Bob, is that all you got? You're a lawyer, ain't you? You couldn't stand to carry a bit more copper around in your pockets, Mr. Odo. What? Hey, that's my last bit of spending money, that is. You can have it back, but I'll have to charge you for all the bother. 3 bob. This is Gina Lestrade, a pickpocket, or diver, born and bred in the East End of London. In the case that led to my own suspension 6 months ago, this is the young girl I was defending in court. What's your problem, Odo? Diver, pickpocket, what's with all the name calling? You want a bag of chips ran down your throat and all, do ya? I thought you were proud to be a diver, Gina? You were just arguing with Inspector Gregson about it, weren't you? I assumed you'd been up to your usual tricks here at the showground. That ain't no way to talk to a lady, Odo. Half a year's a long time. People can change. I'm an apprentice now, learning to be a Scotland Yard detective. So you'll have to call me what everyone else does. It's Inspector Lestrade now. Inspector? That badge is homemade, surely. The inspector part isn't entirely accurate. No one calls her that. For what it's worth, anyway. Investigating is off the cards for all of us. How come? What's that supposed to mean? Are they not letting us investigate? Right, well, I'll be back up top. You hold down the fort here, down here, alright? Alright, sir. She's now working for Scotland Yard. This raises a lot of questions. Indeed it does. We have to know. Alright, tell us about yourself, Gina. What you been up to? It was 8 months ago now that I first encountered Gina in connection with a case I was working on. At the time, she was living in the East End with a group of other orphans. She helped all of them survive by pickpocketing, but then she got embroiled in a murder. And of course, she didn't do it. I had a lot of time to think in prison. I realized I couldn't go on like I was. The diving weren't working out. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear it, Jenny. Well done. So you went from being a pickpocket to a detective? You got it? Good, isn't it? Inspector Lestrade. Sounds like something out of a book, eh? Talk about a sea change. And then there's Iris's old man to think about. Iris's father, you mean? Yeah, I promised her, didn't I? I said I'd get all the police forces around the world to pull out all the stops looking for him. Just a small promise then, nothing serious. Oh, Jenny, you're so sweet. So anyway, that's how I had to go at the test with Scotland Yard. Only trouble is, I don't read so well, do I? Just a small problem, nothing serious. And that's when Hurley approached Gregsy and asked for help. So the inspector said he'd take full responsibility for Jenny and made her a sort of apprentice. That was very magnanimous of Inspector Gregson. And brave. Well, you know Hurley, he enjoys finding ways to make people do what he wants. And that he does. The great detective likes digging for dirt, in other words. So, the long and short of it is, if you got questions about the case, you can ask Inspector Lestrade. Right then, Inspector. Actually, there's still a big mystery surrounding Gina, isn't there? Ooh, what, Bruno? What? Well, 6 months ago, Gina was the defendant in a trial prosecuted by the Reaper. A trial in which she was found not guilty, and yet here she is still. Come on, you're not still on about that, are you? The Legend of the Reaper, or whatever it's called? Cool, you don't have to worry, Odo. If I didn't half worry, there probably wouldn't be a whole lot of you left. It's like I told you before, isn't it? The Reaper's kind of like him upstairs, so he knows what I'm like on the inside. That I ain't really done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong might be stretching a point. What about Mr. Natsumi in Japan? He's perfectly fine, isn't he? Well, that's true. Perhaps the Reaper is more discerning than I thought. Exactly. So I ain't worried. It's totally fine. I'm totally fine. Alright, what about yesterday's incident? Cool, it was out of this world, it was. The brainy bloke pulled a bunch of levers on his machine and suddenly it started billowing smoke. Then it just went pop, I ain't seen a better experiment here yet. Sorry? You mean you saw it, Jenny? With your own eyes? Yeah, of course. The boss is in charge here, ain't he? Of keeping everything running smooth, I mean. The boss being Inspector Gregson, I suppose. That's gonna take some getting used to. So all I have to say is that I'm on duty and I can do whatever I want to. Get this, I was up in one of them flying balloons when it happened, watching it from above. No, you're so lucky, Jenny. Maybe I should join Scotland Yard too. Yeah, do it. You know how to put the boss in his place already, right, Iris? You'd have no trouble at all. Then it's settled. When do I start? No. You can't join Scotland Yard, Iris. We'll see. Anyway, what I don't understand is this. If the machine exploded so spectacularly, how can Professor Bunnybrain still be claiming that his experiment was a success? Oh, right. Well, it was a success, in a way. It was? How can it have been? Is it because he actually disappeared? Surely, after the whole machine blew up, no one could call the experiment a success. It's like I said, it did sort of work. I mean, yeah, there was a load of smoke and that whopping great bang. But where do you think they found the victim's body, eh? In the crystal tower over there. What? In the tower? Maybe it flew through the glass. You can see for yourself, can't you? Up there above the scaffold. Oh, well, the glass is broken, you mean? Yeah, the cage what the victim got in to start with really did get beamed through the air or whatever and landed all the way over there. So you see, it did kind of work, didn't it? What? I don't believe it. I mean, I don't get the ins and outs of it, but anything's possible, right, with science? Oh, I tell you what, you can have this. It's a plan or the experiment they drew up at the yard. Are you sure? Yeah, go on. I had 3 bob off you before, so fair is fair. Yes, I didn't actually give that to you, did I? Alright, so we got the sketch of the experiment. It's a diagram showing the relative position of the crystal tower and Professor Harebrain's machine that exploded. Alright, what about the investigation? Inspector Gregson said before, something Inspector Gregson said before seemed a little strange. For what it's worth, anyway. Investigating is off the cards for all of us. Yes, naughty old Gregsy ran off after that without explaining himself. Oh, right, that. The boss said no one's allowed to investigate that weird machine what blew up yesterday. Well, that's not fair. We're representing the defendant. In that case, could you at least tell us what you've learned from your investigations? Nah, you're not getting it. We ain't allowed to investigate neither. Why? What did the boss call him again? The forensic investigation team, I think. Anyway, apart from them lot, no one's allowed to lay a finger on the scene. But funny, isn't it? So even Scotland Yard's own detectives can't investigate? Yes, I've never heard something like that before. I thought I could have a gander on the quiet though, but the boss caught me at it. You probably heard him giving me an earful about it before from down here, didn't ya? It's not bleeding fair. I think you were giving him as much of an earful back as I remember it. Yeah, well, sometimes I think it's all them chips what make him so stubborn. You say something to him, Odo? Go on, see if you can get through to him. He's up on the platform above us, is he? Where the machine that exploded is? We can try, can't we, Bruno? Gregsy will listen to us. Alright. I wonder if we can at least look at what's down here. Let's see. I don't know if we'll be allowed to, though. Okay, so we can look up and down. Let me look at this. Oh, look, what's this? A ripped piece of cloth. It's not like any fabric I've ever seen before. It's very thick and stiff. It looks extremely durable. It's canvas, I think, with some sort of rubber backing. And the edges appear to be a bit charred as well. Maybe that means it had something to do with the explosion. Let's make a note of it while Ginny's mid-yawn. Alright, so we got the piece of green cloth. It's a torn piece of canvas-like material backed with rubber that was found under the experimentation stage at the exhibition grounds. It kind of sounds like a medicine ball or something, or maybe a balloon, like a hot air balloon. What is this? Ah, it looks as though somebody dropped something behind the tree just here. Dropped or hid? It looks like a crossbow. What is this? Some part of a machine that exploded? Maybe. It could have fallen from the platform above in the blast, perhaps. What's going on here? Oh, nothing? I think I'll hang on to this just in case. Alright, a very curious device found behind a tree under the experimentation stage at the exhibition grounds, almost as if it had been hidden there deliberately. Alright, can we, let's see, let's look at that. The Crystal Tower. It certainly is an apt name. Alright. It was built to be the focal point of the exhibition. And it definitely is, being so tall and with all that glass. Definitely. I can't imagine a building like this ever being erected in Japan. There are lots of exhibits inside the tower as well, apparently. Of course, there's an observation deck, but there's also an art gallery, a zoo, and a museum. But I heard you had to queue for 3 hours just to get through the doors. Well, at the moment, the shattered glass from the failed experiment may well be the biggest draw. And thanks to that accident, the whole tower is shut. Suddenly, it's not the Crystal Tower anymore, but the Crystal Glass Shower. Apparently, everyone's taking to the skies now to look down on the disaster area from above instead. But there's a 3-hour queue to go up in a balloon now. Londoners must be very patient people. Oh boy. Are we able to look at the Crystal Tower itself? Like, we can see the hole, right? That's where the cove ended up after is instant kinesis, or whatever they called it. Dead, of course. And yet they're calling the experiment a success. What's the wooden scaffold there for? The coppers, our lads, set that up after the incident happened. To get the body down, I think. Don't know, really. Didn't you help erect the scaffold, then? Nah, lookout duty is more my thing. Wandering around the exhibition and keeping a lookout for the fun stuff. Mind Gregson doesn't hear you saying that, or he'll give you the boot. It's incredible, though, isn't it? I mean, could the victim really have bridged that gap by some sort of invisible kinesis? Maybe. Alright. Is there anything else? Oh, there's the balloons. We can look at the balloons. I've been meaning to ask you for a while now, but what are those funny round blobs floating in the sky? Oh, they're flying balloons I've been talking about. I want to go up in one so much. I've read about situations like this in a magazine about strange phenomena. Creatures from outer space coming in round flying objects to attack Earth. What? I suppose inhabitants of other planets are bound to be interested in the Great Exhibition. This is it, Iris. It's happening. It's not. Don't worry. I'll explain it all to you later over a nice cup of tea, Bruno. Oh boy. He's like panicking about the balloons. All right, is there anything else to look at? I think that's about it. So, let's see if we can move up the tower. These stairs obviously lead to the stage above. We should go up there and investigate the exact spot where the experiment was being conducted. All right, up we go. 22nd of October, the Great Exhibition Grounds, experimentation stage. So that's it, is it? And the machine that blew up? Oh, it must have been a magnificent explosion. I've seen my fair share. And you've seen things like this before, you mean? Of course, Hurley's always doing experiments that end in a bang. I don't know if I'd brag about that. In fact, in his own words, explosions are the very essence of chemistry. Ah, that might explain the smell of burning that frequently comes wafting up the stairs. One time, he made something that exploded with such force, it took the roof off the building. I wish you'd been there to see it, Runo. It's hard to get too excited about that, given that I now live in the roof. Well, anyway, that's enough about that. It's time to investigate. Are we going to be able to investigate, though, I wonder? Ah, look, Inspector Gregson is over there. He seems to be deep in thought about something, whilst eyeing up the machine carefully. Really? He just looks confused to me. Or I mean, you know, I guess we don't have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Why don't we talk to him and see what he wants? It ripped itself apart magnificently, didn't it? Magnificently and mercilessly. So someone stands in the middle of the machine to be disassembled and then beamed through the air? Yes, beamed. Not blasted. That's the point. Yes, that part's crucial, really. Is something like that even possible, though, Iris? Oh, Runo, I'm just a child. How should I know? A child when it suits you, you mean? From what I can tell, I think if you were to pull this... Stop! Don't touch that. That was practically instantaneous kinesis the way you flew over just now, Gregsy. Please, your ladyship. I didn't mean to startle you, but I can't let you touch anything up here. So sorry. You can have some of my latest special blend to make up for it. He's gotta drink the tea down. Oh boy. Ah, wonderful. This stuff really is wonderful. It's just like old times, this is. Will he talk to us about anything, I wonder? We're representing Professor Harebrain in court tomorrow, Inspector. So we should be allowed to examine the scene. Ha! Listen, sunshine, even I'm not allowed to touch anything up here. It's that blasted Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act to blame. It's driving me potty. I have never heard that expression before. Driving me potty? What in the world? Okay. Oh yes, that special dispensation. The professor mentioned that too. More red tape's all we need. I don't know what the government thinks it's playing at sometimes. But we're allowed to just look, aren't we? Eh? Surely that's alright, isn't it, Gregsy? He's like he can't say no to her. Of course, your ladyship. Anything you say, your ladyship. But please don't get your dainty hands dirty, will ya? Don't worry. We wouldn't dream of touching anything, would we, Runo? She really knows how to get what she wants. Alright, does he have anything to say? Government policy? Alright, using high voltage electricity to somehow disassemble a man's body and then beam him across the crystal tower, it's an extraordinary thing to attempt, especially in public. True, it was by far the most unusual of the experiments planned for the exhibition, mind. To be honest, I'm a bit surprised it was allowed. Carrying out something so dangerous with so many spectators present, I mean? The government's doing everything it can to promote new science and technology at the moment. They're more worried about being ahead of the game than the odd spot of public safety infringements. If they can be the first to develop some new technology, it makes Britain more powerful in the future, you see. Yes, I suppose that's true in a way. So the powers that be are placing a heavy emphasis on scientists' rights at the moment. What sort of rights? They're making it so any theories the brains have must remain their legal property, as it were. Right through developing it into a practical idea and even going into production. Which is the infuriating reason us coppers aren't allowed to touch this crime scene. Because the new highfalutin Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act forbids it. I see now. The only people with permission to investigate here are some brand new department at the yard. The Forensic Investigation Team, it's called. We've been relegated to keeping guard. The Forensic Investigation Team? Any old fool can see that this heap of scrap metal was a sham to begin with. But just because it says scientific equipment on the paperwork, we can't do a flaming thing with it. Poor Gregsy. He's very head up, isn't he? A little bit. Remind me again, what's this new legal act that means we're not allowed to touch the scene here? Are you having at me, sunshine? It's the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Yes, I think Hurley mentioned that recently, with a real twinkle in his eye, as I remember. I'm sure he did, your ladyship. I'm sure he did. Passed especially for this great exhibition it was. All scientists have to do is present their ideas or inventions to some suits in the civil service. And if it gets the rubber stamp, then that's a guarantee of rights to maintain the invention's confidentiality. What does that mean, really? Think about it. Think of all the world-changing new inventions on display every day at this exhibition. Although a good half of them are a load of cobblers, if you ask me, put forward by shammers like yourself. Thanks for that. Oh, I love how absurd some of the inventions here are. It's all so fun. It might be fun for you, but a member of the force has to be present at every single demonstration. Can you imagine, eh? Hang science, that's what I say. Oh, I don't think so. That sounds like my dream job. You'd soon think otherwise after spending a day guarding all these shammers' bogus contraptions. But if they're all bogus, how can anyone hope to demonstrate them? There'd be no point. Yeah, well, there is a point, sadly. Sorry? Thanks to another of our government's bright ideas, if any theory or invention is deemed to show potential, the government hands out a research grant. The scientists get funding, huh? Exactly. And that's what they're all after. All these shammers coming far and wide to clog up Hyde Park. And who has to keep them all safe, eh? Who has to smile politely and welcome them? Us coppers, that's who. I wonder if that's like a potential motive, like to get a grant. So you can see why I say it now, can't ya? Hang science, hang it! He's not happy with it? Oh, maybe I can see your point. Alright, and now our client. What do you think about him? Apparently Professor Harebrain lives and works in Germany, now conducting his research. That's right, came to Britain especially for the Great Exhibition as I understand it. Probably after one of the government's research grants. Humph. Actually, we learned something else about the professor earlier today, about his time in further education. It turns out he was at university with someone we both know. Lord Van Zeeks. Eh? What's that? That's news to me. But if Van Zeeks mans the prosecution, then as the accused, the professor's fate is sealed? Because the Reaper will get him one way or another? Blimey, that man's beyond me. I don't know what goes on in that head of his. Talking of Van Zeeks, this morning's paper ran the story of him being attacked. Read that. We did? Oh, yes. But Mr. Reaper is completely fine. Nothing to worry about. Yes, right. Glad to hear it. Still the Reaper, huh? How long's that business gonna keep up, I wonder? What do you think about that? The victim of this case, the investor, Mr. Asman, he was another of the Reaper's victims, or so I heard. Lord Van Zieks is a top-class prosecutor, but even he can't always push the right verdict through. Sometimes justice can't win. Yes, I've heard about the jurors being bribed and evidence being falsified. And that's how the notion of the Reaper of the Belly came about, isn't it? Obviously, Scotland Yard suspected Van Zieks initially. We all assumed he was taking matters into his own hands if he failed to seal the deal in court. Although the man himself denies that charge. Well, we've done a very thorough investigation, and the conclusion we reached is that Lord Van Zieks is in no way related to the deaths of those people outside the courtroom. There's no question in my mind. I'd stake my reputation on it, I would. But if that's true, then how do you explain it? All those defendants couldn't just have coincidentally died if nobody killed them. I know that, but I can't explain it. It's a mystery after all, isn't it? That's the whole point of the Reaper. I mean, yeah. Professor Harebrain mentioned something else. He said that at university, Lord Van Zieks was a totally different person. Easygoing and kind. You what? He said that it was after they both graduated that something happened to change the man. Do you have any idea what it was? No clue. Really? He seems like he's hiding something. Look, I've got my hands full watching over this frustrating crime scene. Why don't you go and make a nuisance of yourself elsewhere, eh? That seems suspicious. Alright. Let's look around and examine the scene a bit. Let's see what we can find. What all can we examine, I wonder? Let's see. Can we look at anything here? Any of this debris? We can look at this. There are all sorts of strange buildings here at the Great Exhibition Grounds, aren't there? I seem to remember something similar being exhibited in Japan one time. Oh, in your country, Bruno? I do wish I could go and see it. I'd present a particularly steely samurai with a present of one of Hurley's stories I'd written especially. And see if I couldn't get Hurley into a jam against some Bartitsu master ninjas. You might not find as many of those sorts of people around as you think. Oh, well that's dull. Oh, but I do know a prosecutor with a con mage top knot I can introduce you to. Yeah, we know that guy. A con mage? Really? Do you think I could have my picture taken with him, do you? Assuming he's recovered from the trim Kazuma gave him a year ago, yes. What else? We got this knob here. Considering how badly damaged everything is, Professor Harebrain was lucky to escape unscathed, I'd say. We should have a good look around the machine while we can, I think. Touch anything and I'll make sure I kill you before I get strung up myself, you hear? I won't touch anything, I promise. So please, spare a thought for your digestion. Anyway, do you really think this machine could actually disassemble people like the professor claims? He asked, looking totally incredulous. Give it a rest, Sunshine. If we were allowed to examine all this bleeding scrap metal, maybe we could answer that question. But we can't, can we? Because of the annoying rules, you mean? Exactly, the annoying obstructive flaming rules. Oh, look at the base of the machine there. Oh yes, there's a tool of some kind poking through the wire mesh. It's a screwdriver, I think. Oh, isn't it a lovely one? The handle is in the shape of a capital letter A. It is? Oh yes, you're right. What's the matter with you? Don't touch anything, I said. Touch anything and I'll make sure I kill you before I get strung on myself, I said. Yes, yes, I understand. Sorry. I only touched it a teeny weeny bit. But Grexy, I'm very curious about this screwdriver. Really very, very curious. Of course, your ladyship. You're so clever, your ladyship. Fancy spotting something like this. But I'm afraid I can't let you have it. But Bruno found it first. I assure you, I'll investigate it thoroughly. He's gone off with it. That was very mean, I'm afraid. Inspector Gregson is going to make a very clumsy and embarrassing mistake in next month's installment now. Poor Gregsy. Oh, whoops. Oh, he's back already? Right, are you done here, Mr. Naruto? Sorry? Isn't it about time you were leaving? Or rather, it is about time you were leaving? That lot are here now. That lot? They're talking about the forensics. Yep. The forensics investigation team. They'll be giving me the heave-ho in a minute, too. Oh, dear. Poor Gregsy. Here, have another cup of my special blend to cheer you up. Everything is made better with a bit of tea. Just a spot of tea. Ah, that hit the spot. Yep, hits it every time. Well, at least I've seen the scene with my own eyes. It looks like this is as far as we're gonna get with our investigation here, at least. I've been thinking. Spike tea, I don't know. Hurley might know something, mightn't he? About what? About Mr. Reaper. About what happened to Lord Van Zeeks, you mean? Because it sounds like something very significant occurred after he graduated from university. Something that completely changed his life. Maybe, but I have no idea where to find Mr. Sholmes at the moment. He's in the middle of some big case, isn't he? Here, this is what you need. What's this? Some kind of entrance ticket? Madame Tussbells? Is this supposed to mean something to me? You don't know it? It's the most popular attraction in London at the moment. It's very close to Baker Street, actually. We could go now if you like. No. We don't have time for visiting attractions today, Iris. We have a big trial tomorrow. But that's where Hurley is. What? At this popular London attraction? Yes. How is it that you know where he is? Hurley told me. But he told me to keep it a secret from you, Bruno. Madame Tussbells. I don't see how it could be related to the case we're investigating here, but then stranger things have happened. And when they happen, Mr. Sholmes is usually at the heart of them. Oh boy. Well, I guess it's time to be moving on then to Madame Tussbells. Oh boy. Sounds like a fortune teller. 22nd of October. Madame Tussbells, Museum of Waxworks. What in the world? Oh, okay. A wax museum of murders. I gotcha. What is this place? Look at all these terrifying scenes. But why are all the people so still? Guillotines, ruthless murderers. I know what I'll be dreaming about tonight. They're all wax models. They're amazingly realistic, aren't they? What do you think, Bruno? Shocked? Wax models? I read about dead bodies in wax once in a magazine about strange phenomena. Depending on how corpses are kept after death, But parts of them can turn to wax, apparently. It's called a dipocere? I've never heard of this before. Stop talking about creepy things like that, Bruno. You're scaring me. Anyway, a dipocere doesn't form readily, you know. What now? I've just remembered something else I read in another magazine about strange phenomena. Maybe you shouldn't read magazines about strange phenomena. There was an old lady, maybe a witch, who used to pour molten wax over corpses and put them on display. None of the exhibits in here are real. They're all entirely man-made replicas. They can't be. Do you really expect me to believe that? Just look at them. Oh. There's no way anybody could make models of people that are this realistic. And they're all such gruesome scenes. Wait. One of these things is not like the other. What is it? Oh, no. I must be seeing things. Indeed, we're not. Let's just enjoy our tour of the museum. So what is this one? That big heavy curtain is in a very prominent position, isn't it? I have a nasty feeling there's going to be something truly terrifying behind it. Oh yes, that's the famous Tuspel special exhibit. It depicts one of England's most notorious killers. Do you want to pay the extra fee and have a look? Pay more money? To be even more terrified? Let me think about that for a moment. It was only a suggestion. I would do it. Alright, there's an arm sticking out. Is this an arm? It looks like an arm, doesn't it? Maybe one of the Waxwork models has fallen over. You don't think it could be the work of one of the mass murderers in here, do you? Bruno, just stop scaring me. Is it a wax arm or a real one? Come on, you're always pointing that finger of yours in court. Poke the arm now and see how it feels. Objection. Alright, who is this? And these models are so well made, I can't tell what's a waxwork and what's a real human. Or maybe all the exhibits are real people. And when it's closing time and all the visitors have gone home, they suddenly start moving about. Just thinking about it makes me wish it was closing time already and I was on my way home. Oh boy. Now let's see, what else do we got? What is this? Oh, that's a funny place for a little ladder. What is it? Is something wrong? No, it's just that in Japanese, we have a totally different word for a ladder that folds in half like that. We do in English too, you know. It's a step ladder, or just steps. So be careful of making assumptions about other cultures, Bruno. That's how wars are started. I didn't realize step ladders were an international point of contention, but the writer makes an astute point. We got Jack the Ripper here. Ugh. Is this an example of Western Sujigiri? I don't know what that is. You know, when an unscrupulous samurai randomly attacks a passerby to test his sword. I still don't know, no. But actually, a waxwork samurai would probably be hugely popular. Could you model it, do you think, Bruno? Doing that Sujigiri thing you mentioned? Well, I do have a sword, but I have no intention of testing how sharp it is on a human subject. For now, at least. Alright. Let's see. Anything else? I know we've got Sholmes here. Will this trigger Sholmes? It's... There a great detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes has his own wax statue in here? Really? Well, he is world famous after all. It's an uncanny resemblance, isn't it? It makes my skin crawl to look at it. I know. But look, Bruno, you can kick this Hurley and he doesn't move a muscle. He's gonna try it. You can't go around kicking the exhibits, Iris. Wait. It just moved, I'm sure. And not just a little bit either. Really? Did it? It's blinking. And look closely. There are beads of sweat on the face of this waxwork model. Why is he pretending to be a wax statue? That's what I want to know. Shall we move on, Iris? Over there, look! The great murder scene. There's a great murder scene to enjoy. Much more appealing. Hold it! My dear fellow, I take exception to your recoiling in such a manner, as if you've seen something truly abhorrent. Mr. Sholmes. I knew it. Iris, what possessed you? I strictly forbade you from divulging my temporary waxwork secret to Mr. Naruto. Temporary waxwork? What do you mean? And that kick. Could you not have exercised a little more restraint? You winded me. But Bruno has something he needs to ask you. Ah, question. And I thought you'd probably be getting bored too. So here we are. Well, I can't deny that your timing was impeccable. A mere 2 minutes more being stationary like that, and my great brain upon which all my success has been built would have turned to wax. Thank goodness we arrived in time. Indeed, in many ways, the pair of you just saved the world from an unimaginable loss. Oh, Hurley, you do like to talk nonsense, don't you? He could know something, it's true, about Lord Van Zeeks and what happened in the past to change him. Now that you're here, let's take our time. How can I be of assistance? For your own luck, I suddenly quite taken with the idea of conversing. Oh, well, actually, I'm in quite a hurry. And if my eyes don't deceive me, I believe something is afoot within the walls of this very museum. A most fascinating case, if I'm not mistaken. Really? Moreover, I have a strong suspicion that it is related to the matter about which you've come to me now. But how could it be? We shall speak again presently, my dear fellow, but for now I must return to my work. What? Back to being a temporary waxwork exhibit? And he's a statue. Well, let's talk anyways. What is this place? He's not gonna say anything. Madame Tuspers came to London from France 3 years ago, I understand. She opened this little waxwork museum last year. It's enjoyed great popularity in London. And there are museums like this in Japan too, but the displays are something else. I mean, they aren't made from actual real people, are they? And the extreme realism of these waxwork models is a particular secret of the Tuspers family, they say. They earned renown during the French Revolution for waxworks of the victims of the guillotine. Ugh, that sounds grim. And the gruesome scenes were portrayed with such realism in the expressions of the faces of the condemned. Apparently, the sculptors would make the models directly from the corpses, right there at the site of the executions. That really turns my stomach. That's just one of several legends about the Tuspers family. Whether there's any truth in it, I couldn't say. But anyway, this museum houses models of famous people from all over the globe. Nevertheless, the most popular area of the museum by quite some margin is this House of Horrors. House of Horrors? Of course, visitor numbers are dwindling now as a result of the Great Exhibition. But people usually flock here to see the exhibits of some of London's most vile criminals at their gruesome work. Naturally, most of the miscreants portrayed here were sent to the gallows. So they're even stiffer now than the models of them. Have you heard of poor taste? My dear fellow, the public live for poor taste. They yearn to be shocked. So the hideous exhibits in here are... They're all portrayals of real events that actually took place. Is it just me, or did the temperature in here just seem to drop? Anyway, I advise you not to think too deeply about what you see here. And he's back to being a waxwork, is he? Oh boy. Temporary waxwork. Why are you doing this? What do you mean by a temporary waxwork, Mr. Sholmes? Exactly what you see. I'm part of the exhibits here, catching these criminals in the act. Catching them every half an hour. I home in on a different killer in one of the displays and adopt a new pose to ensnare him. When members of the public come for a closer look, I offer them my hand to shake. For a shilling, I'll happily allow them to take a photograph with us. Us? Does he mean him and the waxwork murderer is in here? But why, Mr. Sholmes? My dear fellow, isn't it obvious? For the money. I guess it's his side job? He really roared at me there. Very fitting for the House of Horrors. As it stands, I may struggle to pay this month's rent, and I have the ravenous iris to consider. Oh, Harley, I'm so hungry. If push comes to shove, I shall have to ask you to do your bit, Mr. Naruto. Wait, what's he threatening to rope me into now? So, with that in mind, how about a photograph? As a special treat, you may have your pick of murders and scoundrels in here. The choice is yours. Maybe some other time? Remember, Mr. Naruto, ignore me at your peril. Oh boy. Back to being a waxwork again. Is it just me, or does his final remark there sound a lot like a curse? Alright, something to ask you. Now we can finally get down to the reason we came here. Well, what is it you'd like to ask me then? Actually, it's about Lord Van Zeeks. Ah, our friend Mr. Reaper. How did you find him? Well, I trust. Indeed? But questions. And so I filled in Mr. Sholmes about everything I'd learned. About Lord Van Zeeks, about Professor Hairbrain, and about the strange coincidence that they had been at university together. And so I'm wondering what it is that happened to make Lord Van Zeeks such a different person. I was sure that you'd know, Hurley. Did he? You said there was something going on here in this exhibit hall before, that something was afoot, and that you believed it was related to what I wanted to ask you about? Is he going to take it back now? Mr. Sholmes? He suddenly clammed up? Nobody wants to talk about it? Well, it seems we've reached the Greetings? Who is this? Oh, who are you? Oh, hello? Where did she appear from? And what's she wearing? Could she be any more mysterious? I hope you are appreciating my museum. Sorry, have we... Mr. Sholmes, do you know this? He's a waxwork again? Not again. My apologies. I am Esmeralda Tospels. This is my museum of waxwork. What? You're the Madame Tospels? Bien, sir. Though only 26 years young, I might add. Is that significant somehow? I'm a madam in name only. It adds a certain je ne sais quoi. Right? Firstly, I must apologize for my waxworks. Or rather, one waxwork in particular. The Sholmes one? That'll be Mr. Sholmes then? I was led to believe he was a great detective, but he seems unable to settle. Next time you move from your designated exhibit, there will be toil and trouble. She sounds deadly serious. And that's a problem. How am I supposed to ask Mr. Sholmes about Lord Van Zeeks now? Let's not forget what Hurley said before. About something being afoot right here in the museum, I mean. Yes, I know, but I'm so curious. I want to know what's happening here. Haven't we gotten enough on our plate already? Maybe? Let's talk to you. Did you make all these waxworks, Madame Tuspels? I did. I'm the third generation of waxwork artisans, you know. Gosh! It was my grandmother who began the tradition in my family. Her fortunes were checkered, living through the turbulent times of the French Revolution as she did. Though that is when she acquired the savoir-faire that leads to the astonishing lifelikeliness. All these waxworks really do look as though they're alive. In fact, they look more alive than Hurley. What you see exhibited here represents the most atrocious of London's criminal past. All the waxworks were created in the presence of real people on which they are modeled, in the hours immediately following their executions. That is the secret to the extraordinary lifelikeness. That sounds terrifying. All walks of life have similar challenges, I'm sure. To carry out one's trade per excellence, one must go to extraordinary lengths. My exhibits are a reflection of society. I create only that which the public wishes to see. Ugh. Why couldn't the public have wished for something less horrifying? Do not fear. Sorry? This room is the only one in the museum with such a macabre theme. I do hope you'll explore. There are models of famous singers, actors, politicians. Something for every taste, I hope. It was Iris who dragged me straight in here. Come to think of it. Sorry, perhaps I should have eased you into things. Alright, what about Sholmes? What's the situation with that? Ah, my temporary waxwork model? He approached me some days ago, you see, with a business proposal. Oh, what sort of proposal? My dear madam, what these sparse exhibits need is the addition of a world-famous great detective. Oh, words to that effect. Naturally, I am well aware that Mr. Sholmes is widely known in London as a talented detective. It's great detective, actually. He's very specific about it. Yes, the creme de la creme. So I was keen to come to some arrangement with him, of course. But sadly, we were unable to agree terms. Let me guess. Someone wanted to charge an exorbitant price for his services. For a mere £500, I will dive into your cauldron of wax this very moment. Oh, words to that effect. Mr. Sholmes might have overdone it slightly with the sales pitch. Maybe just a little bit. Regrettably, the museum has a shortage of funds at the moment due to unforeseen circumstances. So we came to the current arrangement instead. Surely he doesn't really need to do what he's doing, does he? I would think not, but he was very insistent. I have a 50-shilling problem that must be resolved by the morning. Or words to that effect. It's the pawnbroker, that's what it is. He must have something to redeem. Is the consulting detective work not going so well? Alright, something afoot. I wonder, could I ask you something? Bien, sir. I'm just curious, is there anything going on in the museum at the moment? Some kind of incident, perhaps? Whoever suggested such a thing to you? Oh, well, it was... your temporary waxwork over there who mentioned it to me a little... He's gone. Oh, he disappeared, of course. A wax model is a work of art, not some tawdry object for trade. Who said that? Oh. There you are? Leaving the exhibit again when you should be working? You wish to be melted down? My dear Madam Tuspel, save your reprimands. There are more pressing concerns. The wax can wait. It's our ideas about your current problem we must throw into the melting pot instead. Okay. Personally, I would advise you not to involve the police. Why ever not? She's turned as white as a sheet. Because you have at your disposal a great detective whose services you may employ for a mere 50 shillings. Though please be aware that I prefer, no, I insist upon payment in advance. What? He's very, very well. Let us see if the great detective is able to live up to his name, shall we? Oh boy. Before I engage my analytical processes, I must ask you to clarify something. What, pray, is behind the curtain? That is the Tuspel special exhibit. There's an extra charge to see it. Ah, the special exhibit in the House of Horrors. It must depict a special killer, then, I presume? Would you be so kind as to draw back the curtain, I wonder? Ah, absolument non. There's nothing amiss behind there. Nothing amiss, madam? Except for the hand? What about the arm protruding ominously from under the curtain? Ah. I strongly encourage you to allow me to see what lies beyond before the situation worsens. Is she going to do it? Yes, very well. I will draw back the curtains. But only, I'm not sure how to pronounce that word, a soupçon. I'm guessing that means a little bit. That one's unfamiliar to me. Oh boy. I must confess, I peeked behind the curtain earlier. The Tuspel's special exhibit is a very bleak graveyard scene indeed. And yet, somewhat surprisingly, the waxwork killer one would expect is nowhere to be seen. What does strike one, however, is the portly gentleman lying peacefully on his back on the floor. What? Oh boy. Well then perhaps, Mr. Sholmes, that man on the floor is the ruthless killer himself. I'm afraid not, my dear fellow. He's a perfectly ordinary London gentleman. Not even a waxwork, in fact. What? As skillfully made as these waxworks are, they are always distinguishable from real humans. Allow me to present my two conclusions. The first is that a sizable business transaction has been taking place in this special exhibit. Why? Why would you say that? And the second is that the aforementioned transaction is linked to a serious crime. Ah. He looks as pale as a candle wax. I don't understand. So, Madame Tuspels, as you've agreed to my fee, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. Oh man. The Great Deduction. Waxwork's Fate. Oh man. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some 200 pounds. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Tuspels. Yes, the answer lies where your gaze now falls. The significance of the 200 pounds is revealed by that public notice. Waxwork for sale, your business has hit hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of 200 pounds. No. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the 200 pounds. It would appear that you twisted this gentleman around your little finger most effectively. What are you suggesting? He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of 200 pounds. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him what an extortionate amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And the result, the scene we see before us. He collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in this exhibit fetched a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret. Right? Sold for cash. The waxwork location. Okay. The question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief, such as is worn by policemen as a secret sign to fellow members of the force that a crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman currently investigating the museum. I know him well. In fact, it's Sergeant John Clay. What are you talking about? The man's quite a celebrity. He's received triple accolades at last year's policing awards. But... Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely, and he hasn't moved a muscle. Almost, in fact, as if he were waxwork. Oh, but you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madam. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. Threepence, a tragically low price, you might say. Though perhaps the going rate for aging waxworks riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant 200 pounds. This sort of plucky behavior that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madam? I do not. Yes, the waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in their custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave in the special exhibit and not a moment too soon. Discovered already. Okay. Right. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. Right. Well, I feel like that deduction is riddled full of holes, and we will have the opportunity to poke holes into each and every assertion in our next episode as we do the rebuttal and the course correction. So if you enjoyed this episode and you like this kind of content, please make sure to like, subscribe, follow, share, all that good stuff. If you want to watch live, we're on Twitch at twitch.tv/Lear27. I have my schedule posted in the about and in the description. And if you want to see which games we're playing each day, I post them on x.com/Lear27. And I hope you'll join me in the next one. Until then, guys, bye.